I'm so happy to see you all here. I spent 3 weeks in January down in Goa, and the hotel where I went was absolutely marvelous from a standpoint that I want to make very real for all of you. When I began Ananda back 1968, that's a few years ago, one of my dreams had always been to make the architecture harmonious. And I had to bargain with the new people at Ananda. If all of them had grown up in suburbs and places where everybody wanted a different style. I felt that it would be beautiful if the buildings could all be different, but in a different style. I mean, the same style, but each one unique and special too. And the people didn't want that, so I had to bargain with them. And I said, all right, you do what you want that way, but the spiritual side I insist on. And with this bargaining, you can't do anything in this world without a quid pro quo, without giving a little and so on. But when I went down to Goa, to this hotel, I was absolutely thrilled that they had done what I wanted to do in starting communities, and I would like to do that in India. And Nirmala has a lot of photographs on her computer, which if you all have computers, you can have her send to you. But each one of the cottages we were in was beautifully designed. Each entrance was separate, so it gave a sense of privacy, and yet each one was close enough to the other so you could get many of these cottages in one little area. I would love very much to do something like that in India. I remember back in 1959, I went to Puri, and there was a saint living there on the outskirts of Puri who was 132 years old. And I enjoyed being with him, but he said, and his advice was, don't enjoy anything in this world. You should, if you see a beautiful sunset, don't enjoy it. And I thought, well, and he may have reached 132 years in this boring existence, but my feeling is that the way of the Gita is to enjoy everything with the joy of God. And this is what I would like to bring into manifestation here in India. India, Indians as a whole are not following Krishna. They're following the ways that was taught by Jesus Christ. Absolute renunciation of everything. Krishna taught, embrace the world with God. Enjoy the world with God. Nishkam karma. Do everything. Do your duty. But do it for God, not for ego. And Jesus said, don't think about tomorrow. Just think about today. And the tomorrow will take care of itself. Actually, Christians make better Hindus, and Hindus make better Christians. And as you know, I have just finished a book called The Revelations of Christ, proclaimed by Paramhansa Yogananda. And I think it's going to be, I hope it will be a blockbuster. I think it will awaken many people to the balance. I have said outright that what Jesus taught was Sanatana Dharma. He did not come to teach a new religion. Nobody can teach a new religion. Sanatana Dharma is not Hinduism. It is the religion of the entire universe. God brought all of us into existence out of his own consciousness. And the older I get, now in 3 months, I will have completed 81 years. And you might think that I'm sort of getting tired of this world. Well, I am in a way. But on the other hand, I have to say that I am more and more conscious of how close all of us are to God. There's really a tiny little veil that separates human beings from that infinite one. We're so close to him. The only difficulty is that our attention goes outward instead of inward. Somebody wrote to me just the other day saying, how can I overcome pride? How can I overcome ego? That's the whole story. If you can only, I'm somebody who has done quite a few things in my life. I've written lots of books, I've written lots of music, I've painted paintings, I've been a photographer, I've done so many things to try to show people how to bring God into daily life. And what I have seen is that the less I think I am doing it, it doesn't cut out, it doesn't mean that by thinking I'm not doing anything, he's doing everything, that therefore I sit back and let him do it. This was the first thought I had. I wanted, when I was a minister in 1955 in the church in Hollywood, I remembered that Master had told us, feel that God is talking through you. So I thought, well, okay, God, I'll just shut up and you talk through me. So I stood there on the platform for 2 minutes. When you've got 100 or more people listening to you, and suddenly you don't say anything for 2 minutes, people begin to get anxious. And some people were perspiring, thinking I had become afraid. No, I was just calmly waiting for God to say something. And I realized that he doesn't. He has created this universe not that we would hate it. He is not pleased if we hate his creation. What kind of a compliment to God is that we look around us at these beautiful things that God has given us and we say, oh God, take it away. That is not the ideal. The ideal is to do everything with God. And the thing is that we can do so much more when we let him do it through us. Master gave us the prayer. He said, I will reason, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity. And I found that this is what he wanted of us when speaking. Let him talk through us, but we have to do it and feel his inspiration. Now, there isn't any job that is unholy in itself. We need, and I've been reading the writings of Abdul Kalam, and I remember I met him a year ago, and at the end of our talk, he said, maybe I will become your disciple. Well, I know he's not going to become my disciple, but I would love for us to work together to build a beautiful India. This can be done, but it can be done if we give up the thought of, I want this for me, and if we think in terms of how can we serve, how can we improve this country. When I lived here before, it was in 1958 that I came here. At that time, I saw that what was needed was that India become modern. Abdul Kalam, the first question he asked me was, do you think India is losing her spirituality? I said that even from 1958, I saw that India needed to become modern. It has to take its place in the world. Everywhere I have gone where I have seen Indians, I have seen that they are competent, they're intelligent, they always, in just 1 or 2 generations, they're at the top of society. In Fiji, where they went just as indentured laborers, within 1 or 2 generations, they were doctors, lawyers, professors, people at all levels. The country you represent is the only country from ancient times that has managed to preserve its culture intact. A little bit chop-worn, a little bit frayed around the edges, but it is still there. And this culture, India's role in the world is to be the guru. But the guru that India needs today, to be today, is to show people how we can build a world in a godly way. And rishis in the forest, I'm all for it. When I came to Yogananda, my desire for many years was to be a hermit. And in fact, before I came to him, I wanted to be a hermit. And then I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and I said, this is so great. The whole world needs to know it. And now I have dedicated all these years, since I was 22, to this vision. I believe that, why have we Americans come here? We have come because we want to help Indians to understand how we can build this country in a new and glorious way. You know, I was in the hospital 2 years ago. I had double pneumonia, and I came close to dying, but I've been so many times close to dying that it just doesn't bother me anymore. When God wants me, he can take me. I have no desire. But while I was in the hospital, almost unconscious, a doctor came into my room. And he said, what do you expect a doctor to do when you're in the hospital and practically unconscious? You usually expect him to say, well, how can I help you? Or here's what I can do to help you. No. He said, sir, can you help me? I was a little surprised. He said, sir, I have a son in college in Canada. I have so many financial obligations. I believe in yoga principles. But how can I be yogic? How can I follow the path of Dharma and meet my bills? And I said, I have discovered from my own experience that if you follow the path of Dharma rigorously, you can be more successful. Well, unfortunately, at that moment, I was not a good advertisement for success. I was lying practically unconscious. And so the next day, Leela came, she brought me my food, and I sort of rose myself out of my sleep and said, Leela, I need to write a correspondence course, How Material Success Through Yoga Principles. And she gave me my lunch, and I fell back asleep. And then later in the day, Keshava came to take care of me while she went and cooked me lunch, or dinner rather. I said, Keshava used to be my secretary. I said, Keshava, get a pen and some paper. And I roused myself out of this torpor, and I said, Keshava, write down what I dictate. And I dictated the whole introduction to the course. Then I thought, well, maybe I can even come up with an outline of the course. And so in that short time, I dictated the whole outline for this course on material success through yoga principles. Well, we've launched this course here, and I think it can be a tremendous help here in India. People everywhere in the world have studied this course now, and they all say it's a very good course. Indians today, they want to come up, but they've got to do it dharmically if they want to be the guru of the world. And too often you will find people lying, cutting corners, doing things that are not true. I said to one of our members here that we need testimonials for this course, and she said, well, nobody will believe anybody. This is a very sad situation. When a person says, I will do it, he should do it. I remember back in, early 50s, I wrote a play. My desire at one time was to be a playwright. And I went to borrow a dhoti from some Indian student in college. And there was another Indian visiting him there. And it required Indian garment because it was a play which we will have Americans put on for you in March for the Mahasamadhi. And they're coming over just to put this play on. Well, I hope it's for more reasons than that, but they will put the play on for you. Well, anyway, as I was leaving this man's apartment with his dhoti and various things, another friend of his, an Indian, said, I will definitely be there. Well, I knew he would not be there. He hadn't asked when it was. He hadn't asked what it was. He hadn't asked anything. I knew he wouldn't be there, and he wasn't there. Why did he say, I will definitely be there? Too often now when Indians tell me I will definitely do it, I know they won't. Now that has to be changed. People have to be true to their word. I can tell you, and this is what I've written my course on, that by being rigidly dharmic, I have built this community with nothing. I didn't have any money. My father was well-to-do, but he never gave one paisa to Ananda. And we did it by Dharma. There was a time there where a fire destroyed almost all our community. And our neighbors phoned to find, they were all excited because they said, we've discovered that the cause of this fire was a faulty spark arrestor on a county vehicle. We can sue them and get all the money we want. And we were the biggest losers. We could have had millions of dollars that way. They got it. But I wrote to the supervisors, I said, I don't want to take our bad fortune out on other people, on our neighbors. And so we did not. Everybody predicted we would fail. We did not fail. 10 years later, our neighbors were still weeping because of all that they had lost. They'd lost their homes, all their possessions. Yes, they got the money to rebuild, but they lost all those things. They were weeping. One day after the fire, we were out there joyfully singing and clearing up everything, ready to start again. This is the kind of spirit that I want to help to inculcate. And yes, I have been dedicated to teaching people to meditate, but I want with that meditation to bring this world and the spiritual path. And India has this dharma. Please don't lose it. I know that India is needing to come up in the modern world. I know that many people think in terms of shortcut. If I tell a little lie here, maybe I'll get this and so on. It's not true. I would like India to be the guru of the world materially also. And this you can do. Now, there are certain things that, as I said, my desire was to be a hermit. But Master told me your life will be one of intense activity and meditation. He put meditation second, and it has proved that way. I am grateful for the things that I have done. I don't say this to boast, but to show that it can be done. I've written 400 pieces of music. I've written 87 books now. I've started communities where about 1,000 people live in Italy and America. I want to start one in India. I would like you all to think, what can we do to build community here? Now, there are things that I'm doing too. I wrote that course. It took me 1.5 years to write it. I wrote it for 2 reasons. One, to help Indians to know that the path of dharma is the path of good karma, yes, and good success. Kriya Yoga has 2 meanings. Kriya means action. It means action inwardly, that kind of action which will, through pranayama, put you in tune with the infinite. It also means outward action, action for God, acting in such a way that we can bring God. People are so close to God, but because they think I and mine, they remain far away, not in their own selves, but in their consciousness. It doesn't have to be so. Every human being is a potential Krishna. Krishna came not to show us how great he was. He came to show us how great we can become. We must live with that thought that he is doing it through us. Nishkam karma. When you act and think, I am doing it for you, God. I'm not doing it for myself. I have been amazed because, as I said, I started with nothing. When they put me out of SRF, they gave me $1,000. They let me keep $1,000. Well, that's not much money in America. I was given another 500 because I didn't shout at them angrily, and I just accepted it humbly. But 1,500, you can't get anywhere. They made sure that I was in New York, 3,000 miles away from all the people I knew. It looked as if my life was completely destroyed, and they wanted to destroy it, and I cannot deny that they wanted to destroy it. They did their best. But with God's grace, what Master had told me was proved true. He said, you have a great work to do. And with God's help, I have done it. He did it, but I had to be willing to put my life on the line. He needs instruments. He needs actors in this drama. We cannot achieve his will by sitting back and letting him do it. But God can work in a mechanic shop. God can work in a shop, in a business, in a store, in every way. Whatever you do in life, don't think I and mine. Say, God, I do this for you. When you leave this world, you leave everything. And it would not hurt to think that way, to realize that all that you've built now, it won't be yours. And you know, people think in terms of family. But there are 2 kinds of family. One is your blood family. That's all very nice, but I have heard so many stories of brother suing brother, of children keeping their parents indigent and suffering in old age, of widows being cheated out of their inheritance by children who think in terms of how we can get ahead. This, we need to also create an army of spirituality that can show people that when you live by Dharma, everything goes well. Yata dharma tata jaya. Where there is dharma, there is victory. And I have proved that in my life. I have had every odd against me. SRF spent $50 million trying to destroy me. Now, that's a lot of money. They did their best in the courts. We had no money, but somehow, if you stand firm to what you believe in, you become strong. We won just about everything. We didn't win against them. We won it for what we believed in. And this is what I want to do in India. Here I am in my 80s. This is not an age when most people keep fighting the fight. Most people sit back with their feet on their desk and sleep. And I'm doing my share of sleeping these days. But I tell you, I am so eager to see things happen here. And there are several things that I have tried to do. One is this course. I want to change the face of India by making Indians realize that by Dharma, you can attain everything you want. And by not being dharmic, it will look as if you're winning, but at the end, everything falls apart. This is a truth. I've proved it. Another thing that I had in mind, you know, energy nowadays is becoming, in fact, on the front page of the Times of India today, they say finally something that's been declared, but more and more it's being proved. So now it's proved that the global warming is due to man-made pollution, man-made, all these causes. Man is doing it. And I know Exxon, I'm hesitant to say this because I grew up in Exxon, but if they're wrong, they're wrong. And they have paid scientists to say that, no, there's no connection. Well, finally they've proved it, and scientists themselves are saying that, well, it was wrong. Global warming is due to this. Well, in the paper today, they said that someday Mumbai will cease to exist, Chennai will cease to exist, or will be greatly inundated with floods. These are not small things. Many cities are on the coasts of countries. We can't reverse that trend, but we can stop it. And I had the idea, which many people have had, I'm not unique, but why not create energy from solar power, from other power, that will not depend on oil, which is a pollutant. And so we have a company starting here also trying to change India that way. And that's something else I want to start. Now, one thing I talked to Abdul Kalam about, I said that we want to start this solar electricity. And he said, what do you do when the sun goes down? And I said, we have an answer, but I'm not allowed to tell you. Well, we're coming close to the prototype of that. Meanwhile, and I want, is Amal here? I want Amal to come up in a little bit and talk to you about the things that we are doing that way. Another thing that I said to Abdul Kalam, we want to start a community which will be a model. He says, but you start something in a small area. We need to help the whole country. And I said, what we need to do is train teachers to teach. And I would love, and I want to start a school for teachers to teach how to teach. I've written a book on education for life, saying that we need to educate children to be able to know how to live and not just how to hold a job and get a good job and make a lot of money. And back 34 years ago, or whenever we began these schools, it seemed like a beautiful dream. But now we've done schools in America, and we find that when those students go to other schools or when they graduate, they become shining examples in society. These teaching children how to be dharmic and how to work with people instead of against people. My guru often used to say that if you live with 1,000 people and everyone is only working for himself, every human being in that group will have 999 enemies. Why not have 999 friends? Now, this is something America has become very good at. We have a talent that way. Cooperation. This is something Indians have not shown themselves good at. So we're here to help you with that. But when you can cooperate with people, then you can do so much more. And you don't lose, you gain. You know, with these solar, this solar thing that we are trying, that we think we'll have a prototype within 1 or 2 or 3 months. This, we're not so naive as to think that we can get a group of houses to work together, because too many people will say, well, you're getting more, you're using more electricity than I am, you should pay more. This sort of thinking needs to be shelved. We need to work together. Meanwhile, yes, we're willing to sell 1 unit for each home here in Gurgaon and get it started. But I tell you, well, Dharna used to be a rocket engineer, just like Abdul Kalam, and he is inventing this thing. We have 7 patents applied for. And you may say, well, what is the Swami talking about these materialistic things for? They're not materialistic. If we can make everybody prosperous, you know, I have noticed that in the ashrams, the chokidars don't go. The poor people don't go. The middle class people go. And how many poor people are there in India? You know, you don't have to, I don't have to tell you. But if we can help all those people in those villages, 750,000 villages, if we can help them to have electricity, if we can help them to have education, we can change this whole country in 1 or 2 generations. I can't do it. You can do it. And why not? So these things, I'm doing this because India will be more spiritual when it has gained this necessary balance. I still believe in God contact and God communion, but I also say that we need to bring that communion outward into daily life. And I have noticed that the more I do, the more joy I feel from God inside. It's not as if I feel cut off from Him. I feel His joy in my heart. I would like to share that joy with you on not just that level of chanting Om in your own meditation room, but taking it out into life. You know, we were a group of us in Goa, 12 of us sitting around a table. And because we're all from different communities in America, in Italy, and here in India, and we're a joyful lot. People kept smiling at us, and we made an impact on that whole hotel. Not only was I pleased to see the staff smiling, but all the guests smiled when they passed us, because they saw that there's something. What have these people got? Well, I'd like to help people know what they can have. So anyway, I have asked several people to come in these different projects of ours and talk about them. And Amal, could you come up first and talk about what your... Amal was living in England, and now he's come here to work with us.